Oh, welcome to I Love Gay today. Now, you have to admit, just by seeing Damon in a bathtub, that this is going to be a very unique and special episode. And we're with Damon Jacobs. How are you?
Well, I'm having a wonderful day. I think the day always goes better with a hot bubble bath. Does it not?
And I have to say, like, you really have nailed it. You have mastered it. When somebody sees you, the first thing they would not think of is that, oh, he's a therapist who lives in New York and works with we're married people. I would look at you and say, you do a great job of being able to connect all those dots together because you have been creating videos from the bathtub, but you interview folks and you weave in your world of the work you do at the same time.
Well, thank you, Matt. And that I really am honored to hear that. And thank you for that. That is kind of the common denominator and the foundation of the work I've been doing for well over 30 years is integrating mental health with sexual health and a sense of fun and play and just splendor that we have this moment in time to be alive as queer people, getting older, embracing life in a way that I think has never really been seen historically before. And I love the I love gay theme of your show, and I love the positivity of that. And so to me, this is just such an interesting opportunity. And this is, the various channels by which I try to express like how I'm feeling about life right now, one of which is sitting in my tub.
But you call it's Tub Talks with Damon, right?
Yeah, so the show that I developed is called Tub Talks with Damon, sort of a spin on TED Talks. And what occurred to me, I turned 50 2 years ago, and it was sort of when the COVID vaccines just started to become accessible. So there just started to be these opportunities to have conversations again. And I was turning 50 and thinking, oh my God, I'm so grateful I've turned 50. And I feel really much better about turning 50 than I ever thought. So I wrote a series about this called The 50 Lessons of 50, the 50 things I've learned about growing older with power, purpose, and pleasure as a queer person. And then I'm like, okay, I'm in New York City. Some of the most amazing and brilliant teachers, healers, leaders, historians, activists, educators are all here.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
if I took an opportunity to interview them about how they were experiencing this major trauma of the pandemic, as well as the sort of threats to our democracy, and still embrace life and getting older. How are other people managing these choppy waters right now? And I thought, what better way to do that than to have naked conversations in my bathtub and ask
Yeah.
these questions?
Yes. Well,
And
I
that was
love
the
it.
beginning of Tub Talks with Damon.
Yeah, no, I love it. And actually, you must be doing something right because every time I log on to YouTube to post a video, out of the little grid that YouTube gives me, you are always one of the top 8 videos right there.
Ooh, thank you. That's good to hear because I never know how YouTube is doing their algorithm. I never know if I'm on it or not. But that's cool to hear.
But you're actually,
It's
and that
neat
also
because I
goes,
just thought maybe I'll do. I thought if I asked, I knew 10 people in New York that if I asked them, hey, would you come sit in my bathtub and let me ask you questions? They would just do it and say yes. And I thought, okay, I'll do like 10 of these shows and that's going to be it.
yeah,
Lo and behold, after about 10 or 11, people just started reaching out to me and started saying, yes, I want to, I'm doing this, or I'm thinking this, or I'm promoting that. I really want to talk with you and have that conversation with you.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay,
yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah. Well, we're in the same thing. That was the same thing here. This started during the pandemic. I was just making it up as I went along, and now I can't stop because people are, continue. Like I get publicists and all sorts of folks will say, "I really want to be on the show," and I'm like, "Well," and I enjoy doing it, so I guess we're just going to keep going.
It's, to me at this point, especially now in my 50s, the professional thing is that as long as it brings me joy, I want to keep doing it.
Yeah,
I've kind of maximized the professional channels by which to do work that I love and minimize the channels of doing things I really would rather not do.
yeah,
And that's been a product. I mean, that's just in my 50s that I've reached that. That's
yeah,
taken a long time and a lot of hard work to be able to decide and discern all of that. But I encourage people who are also on that exploration in their lives that if you keep following this path of saying, what do I really love to do? What really brings me joy? And keep following that, there's often a lot of energy you can build around that
yeah,
and things you can do around that that are going to help sustain you financially, professionally, and mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. It's like, it's a good place.
yeah. No, I hear you. It's interesting now. I can understand why, especially on your website when you talk about all the public speaking you do. Now I get it because You are compelling. I love hearing this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love what you're doing. And what we've often talked about are conversations about how queer people can maximize their professional power. And I think that's an ongoing discussion that I think you're having with all of your guests. And it's wonderful to have that.
Yeah.
I think there's two different ways to go about building a successful business. One is to really, really study and do your work and do your research and do your homework to find out who are you trying to serve? Who else is trying to serve them? And what can you offer them that nobody else is? So when I started my private therapy practice in New York City in 2010, you went on Psychology Today, there were like 429 other therapists in the same zip code that were offering therapy. And I had to really think strategically, like, how do I bring something to this community that nobody else is bringing?
Yeah.
And I thought, and what do I love to do that I can contribute to this community that nobody else is contributing? Well, at the time, there were no other marriage and family therapists offering expertise and information for polyamorous couples.
Yeah.
And I've always worked very comfortably in the polyamory community. I've always been polyamorous myself.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, I do my homework. I see no one is reaching out and serving and helping families and couples and polycules where people are trying to build ethical and loving agreements about how to express emotional and sexual connection outside the primary dyad.
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to that community, serving them, doing free talks with them, and lo and behold, bringing them into the therapy practice, saying, here's something I can offer you. You won't be pathologized in my office. You're not going to be labeled. You're not going to be stigmatized. Then I started to, just sort of by accident, get a lot of opportunities to talk about PrEP early on, pre-exposure prophylaxis, ways that I was using PrEP to have a lot of different kinds of sex with a lot of different kinds of people without any fear of HIV whatsoever. And once again, that became something that the queer community could relate to in a mental health setting by saying, I want to have this experience as well. And I still want to be able to talk about the other issues that are problematic as gay people, the body dysmorphia, the performance anxiety, the substance abuse, the loneliness, the depression, the fears about penis size. All of these things were and are part of the queer sex experience.
Yeah.
But unless you're a queer therapist who is knowledgeable and aware of these things, you may inadvertently end up stigmatizing or judging people who are having a lot of sex. So I started to become known for that, as well as being able to work with those issues in a healthy way as well. So that was one approach. Do your homework, do your research, build your expertise in a field that is underserved.
Yeah.
The other angle, the second way, is kind of what I'm doing with the Tub Talks and what I see a lot of people doing online. Do something you love, express something you love, pick up your bathtub, your show, develop energy around something you love, even if it doesn't necessarily bring you financial gain at first, but just do something you truly like can be passionate about.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you do that, if you follow your joy, sometimes you will get financial success from that, but sometimes you won't, but you'll still have the joy.
Yeah.
And these are the two paths that I've seen really work sort of sometimes in tandem, sometimes apart, to really build a sustainable professional future for queer people over time.
Yeah. Well, I think what I'm going to add that I think that where you get some of the joy out of your Tub Talks is that you allow other people to tell their story and you just help them along the way.
That's important to me because I talk a lot. Obviously, I write a lot, I talk a lot. It was important to me to do interviews in a bathtub to really give a like a lot of these interviews are like an hour, to really give that opportunity for people to tell their story and sometimes some very sensitive, personal, traumatizing issues, but also stories of survival and resilience in their own time without rushing them, without trying to, that's the great thing about YouTube. I'm not worried about time limits or commercials or brand or taking a break. I'm not like Whoopi Goldberg saying, we have to take a break now on The View. It's like you just do open form, let people tell their stories. And again, something about the warmth and the nakedness of the bathtub allows people to often be more vulnerable and tell their stories in thorough, detailed, intimate ways.
Yeah, no, I love that. And what's also what I've also loved because and I look at it that's why I was saying you're very good at kind of keeping yourself out there, and you look at all those. I think you look at a lot of social media. It's just various touch points that you get to reach folks because before a lot of the social media, you've been writing for many years too. So you've got that traditional sense of journalism and outreach, and but you've got some amazing articles that have been through Advocate, Out, New York Times, all of it.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Again, it's just really amazing. A lot of that was a natural outcome of following my bliss, but following my passion. I'm a very political person and I'm a very spiritual person, and the intersection of political and spiritual are very much overlapped for me. So when I get out there and I'm talking passionately about sexual health and queer men's right to have a life, to have a physical life, a mental, emotional life, sexual life that has abundance and quality and quantity. That's really coming from a place where I'm rooted at. And a lot of the interviews or the articles you've seen I've gotten chances to write, or the books I've written, have been in alignment with that energy. And I'm very grateful that, hey, I'm grateful I get a chance to speak my mind, and I'm grateful that for some people, this appeals to them.
Well, this is going to be great when the tables are turned, and I'm at your place and in the bathtub, and we see where our interview goes that time.
So whenever you're in New York, Matt, or whenever we're in the same city, because whenever I go to any city or when I travel, I almost always try to get a bathtub.
Yeah.
So which is getting harder to do with hotels. So anytime you and I are in the same city, or you're in Brooklyn, I'm getting you in the tub. I'm not going to interview you.
You got it. But I think this is amazing. And I'm really glad that you're able to take some moments of your time and share a bit of your story with our audience here, because I think they're going to love it.
I hope so. Again, I want people to follow their bliss. But what I see sometimes is people sometimes do the bliss without the homework.
Yeah.
They follow their bliss without doing their due diligent research. So that's fine if you're just doing stuff you want to do for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But what I see happen is sometimes people do a show, or they do a podcast, or they do a video series that wasn't really what was interesting or appealing to the audience. And then they get very hurt and disappointed when it's not supported or sustained.
Yeah.
And that's where I say it's important to do your due diligence. Look at the community you're seeking to serve and see what you're doing that's different and what people are asking for that no one else is giving them. Yeah. If you do that and then hitch that to your joy, can't miss.
Fantastic. Well, you're amazing, and I'm so glad we were able to connect. And like I said, look forward to being able to see you soon.
I hope so, Matt. Thanks you so much for having me on the show.